Welcome back to John Bachman Now. I'm Eric Bowling, filling in for John. Earlier this week, the Biden administration was promoting a radical group pushing critical race theory in schools, a group that advocates for teachers to, quote, disrupt whiteness and other forms of oppression. Well, Press Secretary Jen Psaki insisted yesterday that this was just a simple error. Take a listen.
So I'm quite impressed with your researchers for finding one of 1,000 citations. It was an error in a lengthy document to include this citation. The specific site does not represent the administration's view, and we don't endorse the recommendations of this group. And I believe it's been removed or is in the process of being removed.
By the way, that thing has been up there for 5 months, so an error, not sure. Just another flip-flop from the Biden administration, but joining us now to break it all down, Turning Point USA contributor, lawyer, and Republican strategist Erin Elmore, and host of Stacy on the Right on Sirius XM. She's also the co-chair of Project 21. Thank you very much for joining us, Stacy and Erin. So let me start with you, Erin. This thing has been up here. This group has been up here. It's been part of this thing that's been sat on the White House website for 5 months, but now they say, oops, it was a mistake. Your thoughts?
They only admit this mistakes when they get caught. But I think the bigger problem here is we have a White House and we have a press secretary and we have an administration that feels completely comfortable lying to the American people. And it's terrifying to watch because we have the left-wing mainstream media who's basically a Democrat super PAC that is complicit with this. No one is calling them out. Thank God for journalists with you and with Fox, like Peter Juicy just did, calling these people out. They only did this because they got caught. And they're also starting to realize that mothers and fathers and parents around the country just want their children back in school, learning the basics, learning reading, writing, English language skills, interpersonal human relationships. They don't want to learn to hate their peers based upon the color of their skin. This really needs to end. And I think the Biden administration is realizing they are losing the grasp of those parents. And they can't just keep lying because people are waking up. And hopefully the mainstream media will do the same thing. They need to be held accountable.
Stacy Washington, by the way, sorry, I didn't add that towards the end of the intro. But Stacy, are they upset that this happened, or are they upset that they got caught?
What they're really upset about, and I love it, I'm here for it, is that parents are paying such close attention that they can no longer just put citations and reference any old radical group in their documents, because people are paying such close attention because the number of public school kids in America, over 56 million, that number's dwindling. 16.4% of Black parents are now homeschooling their kids. And this is a number that is only going to increase based upon the teachers union's declaration that they will not stop teaching CRT. It's also called diversity, equity, and inclusion, by the way. And I want people to start looking for the different names that they will hide critical race theory under, because it's not going away and it's not going to stop. They're hell-bent on indoctrinating America's kids, and American parents are hell-bent on preventing them from doing that. So Jen Psaki making this statement is like a little victory for us. She waved the white flag. They're removing the citation, but they're not removing the curriculum. So don't stop, parents. Keep working, keep doing what you're doing, because you're winning. But I love to see it. I love seeing. I'm here for that specific moment of her behind the podium congratulating this reporter on his researchers. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, and I'm staying with you, Stacy, for a second. In this little sub-link that you can click, and it takes you to this radical group, they say whiteness, basically say, I'm paraphrasing, whiteness equals oppression. Now, that's fine to have that opinion. In America, we have the First Amendment right to have that opinion. It gets a little dicier when the government is posting it on their website, does it not?
Well, okay, so of course I agree with you that we have the right to hold whatever opinion we want, but some opinions are repugnant, like it's not okay to be a racist. You are free to hold that view, but you are also free to be shunned in society and to have your business, not frequented, and for people to really leave you alone for holding that view. And so the same kind of radicalization that we saw when racism was a little more prevalent in this country, we are now seeing with critical race theory, and it's going in the other direction. So my recommendation to people is take any document that you see that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, or critical race theory, replace the word Black with white, just flip it. Then read that aloud. Read it at school board meetings. Read it among your friends at lunch. Read it to people who you know are diehard Biden supporters and Democrats. Read those documents, but put the word white where Black is. and see what they think about that. I can tell you right now, it won't fly. And most of the people who are fighting this thing, it's bipartisan. It's parents who are Democrats who have Biden stickers on their Priuses or whatever they're driving now. And they absolutely hate this stuff too. So we don't have to worry about it being a partisan issue. We just have to worry about not losing momentum and losing the fight. So, we're in a great place here when Jen Psaki has to make this admission and when they have to start deleting things. But what we want them to delete is the curriculum. We want them to delete the things that are actually being told to our kids. That's where we have to make that bend.
Yeah. And Aaron, if Biden really doesn't support critical race theory, shouldn't he call on teachers' unions to stop pushing this garbage, this propaganda on our kids?
I mean, poor Joe Biden, after watching that CNN town hall begrudgingly, he doesn't know what he is saying, quite honestly. And what I think the American people should be asking is, who's pulling the strings? Who is the one making the calls? Who is really running the White House? We know it's not Kamala. So yes, you're absolutely right. I think he should go out and say, we are denouncing critical race theory. I think as the parents and the polling comes out more and more, showing what the American people want, he will be forced to do so. The defund the police movement, they're backpedaling. Critical race theory, they're backpedaling. Keeping kids out of school, they're backpedaling. I want to see a full retraction on all of these. And you know who else deserves a full retraction? Jen Psaki, who has no journalism experience whatsoever, by the way, no journalism degree. She is so condescending. She's like, I congratulate you on your research for noticing a footnote. That's a journalist's job, to go through these heavy, heaty documents and find these buried footnotes and call people out for their bad behavior. They shouldn't be shunned for doing so. She's the one that should be shunned.
Dripping with sarcasm, as they say, is the way she delivered that one. But let's turn to another topic. After images of Olympic soccer players taking a knee were excluded from official highlight reels and social media channels, the International Olympic Committee said yesterday, get this, that kneeling protests will be shown in the future. This decision comes after players from 5 women's soccer teams took a knee on Wednesday. Let me stay with you, Aaron, on this. What are your thoughts on what's going on with the Olympics, Go Woke, Go Broke Olympics, where they're taking knees, and frankly, it's really to the disgust of a good portion of Americans?
Disgust is the perfect word, Eric. You hit the nail on the proverbial head here. This is disgusting. And when America lost in the first round, which was totally unexpected, so many Americans were cheering for that. You know why? Americans support Americans. We are the people that fight our wars and pay our taxes and love our flags. Every one of us that leans right. We have someone in our family that fought for this great nation and may or may not have lost their life. And we see some entitled millennial with purple hair just not looking at the flag or rolling their eyes or kneeling. It disgusts us. And I think that the Olympics are going to have terrible viewership and terrible rating. And they actually did a good thing by excluding the kneeling, because quite frankly, the hardworking Americans don't want to see this vitriol.
You know, Stacy,
60 up. Call now 1-800-387-0308 to get a special introductory offer.
things were supposed to be better, not worse. Tell us where race relation, everything is race now. Everything from kneeling because the flag doesn't represent all Americans to critical race theory. Everything is being divided down racial lines. Where are we? Are we better or worse than we were 5, 10, or 60 years ago today under a Joe Biden presidency?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, because there was a recent poll by Gallup that was done. It's been done every year since 1999, and it was done again this summer, as they do each year. And the numbers in the beginning of the poll showed that a clear majority of Americans felt race relations in this country were absolutely great or on the upswing. And the number of Americans who thought that they weren't, they were the minority. Those numbers have now flipped. Now a majority of Americans believe that this country is heading in the wrong direction on race and that we are more racist than ever before. And that number of Americans are a majority. So where are we really? I think it's kind of weird, because I'm getting along with you and Aaron just great. I'm getting along with all the white people in my life just fantastically. So are my kids. We live in a little hamlet where we are in the minority and we don't actually care. We just live here and love it. And so I think in real life, everything's okay. But the media actually portrays America as a tinderbox of racism and white supremacy and blacks who are oppressed and, barely making it by. That's not the truth. But the media is responsible for that. The Democrats are driving that, and the media is their, PR firm.
You're hitting something Again, on the nail on the proverbial head right here, Stacy, as Aaron pointed out, the media exacerbates this because it's good for clicks, it's good for eyeballs, it gets people to watch. But who's really at fault? I'm going to give you a final word, Aaron, just about 30 seconds or so. I mean, it feels to me, am I wrong, that the Democrats have been pushing this racial divide for the better part of the last 2 or 3 years? It feels like it's their fault and the media is just backing them up.
Yeah, it's the tail wagging the dog, and it's the Democrats that are pushing this narrative as a way to pander for votes. And I do think it, to agree, is working because this is all they're putting on mainstream media: racism, racism, racism. And I think why that number so high is because of that reason. And it's really terrifying for our children who don't see race, that aren't born seeing race, that have friends of all creeds, colors, and races, and just want everyone to coexist in equality.
So important to point out, Aaron, you're 100% right. Our kids go to school, when they're little, they go to school, they don't see color until they're taught there's a difference in color, and that's being taught by the critical CRT garbage propaganda we're throwing down their throat. I'm telling, it's starting young, and I just hope there's an end to this before it's too late. I got to leave it right here up against the break. Aaron and Stacy, thank you so much.